Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a collection of sources laid out here today.
We do, and they all focus on one really dramatic event, the Rangoon incident.
Right. This was a bomb attack, wasn't it? October 9th, 1983.
That's the one. The Aung San Martyrs Mausoleum in Rangoon, well, it's Yangon now, in Myanmar.
And the sources are pretty clear on who the intended target was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
South Korean President Chun Doo-hwan and his whole delegation, they were on an official state visit.
But he survived.
He did narrowly, but many, many high-ranking officials with him were killed. And, well, you can imagine the diplomatic fallout.
Huge. Especially, the sources say, between Burma as it was then and North Korea.
Exactly. So that's our task today, isn't it?
Yeah, our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack these sources, look at the background, how the attack itself unfolded according to this material, and the consequences, which were pretty far-reaching.
Okay, so where should we start? The political climate seems key.
Let's do that. So, setting the scene. Early 1980s, Chun Doo-hwan takes power in South Korea, September 1980. What did North Korea make of him, based on what we have here?
Well, the Workers' Party newspaper in the North, it didn't mince words, called him foolish, brutal, even compared him to a lion taking over after Park Chung-hee. Pretty aggressive language.
And at the same time, South Korea was really pushing its international profile, wasn't it? The Seoul Olympics were on the horizon.
That's right, the 88 Games. Huge preparations underway. And a big part of that was this major diplomatic effort.
Trying to get countries on board for the Olympics?
Yes, especially non-aligned nations, even Eastern Bloc countries. South Korea was sending ministers all over, including places like Africa, which, North Korea kind of considered its own sphere of influence.
Its own backyard, yeah. And this wasn't the first time, according to these sources, that an attack on Chun was allegedly planned by the North. There's mention of an earlier attempt.
That's a really critical piece of context here. August 1982, during Chun's tour in Africa, one North Korean source we looked at claims Kim Jong-il himself ordered it.
Kim Jong-il?
Assigned it to the State Security Department. The plan apparently involved agents disguised as diplomats, ready for a shooting, planning to self-destruct afterwards.
But it didn't happen. Why not?
The source says they got into a serious car accident on the way. So the attempt itself failed before it could even start. But it shows the intent was there already.
Right. And then the Soviet angle comes in, according to this material.
Yeah, this is fascinating. That same North Korean source claims Kim Il-sung actually told the Soviets about that 82 plan.
Really? And what did Moscow do?
Apparently, Brezhnev's government stepped in quickly and stopped it. The fear was potential conflict with the U.S.
But then Brezhnev died.
Right, November 82.
Yeah.
And Yuri Andropov takes over. The sources describe him as very anti-U.S.
And that changed things.
It seems so, according to this account. With Andropov in charge, Kim Il-sung reportedly felt he had Soviet backing to try again. And this time the plan was Rangoon.
And the ambition was bigger.
Much bigger, it seems. Assassinate Chun during his Southeast Asia tour, and potentially use the chaos to trigger something bigger, maybe even a southward invasion if things really fell apart in the South. Or if South Korea retaliated militarily.
Wow. So a failed plot, Soviet involvement fluctuating, and then this new, larger plan for 83, planning again attributed to Kim Jong-il.
Yes, that's what the sources indicate. And the overall command on the ground, reportedly given to Jang Sun-woo,
who was
Kim Jong-il's brother-in-law, according to the material. And he assembled a specific three-man team for the actual attack.
Okay, who were they?
The team was reportedly organized by a Tai Chung-soo from the Kisong Special Operations Unit. And the three agents named are Major Kim Jin-soo, Captain Kang Min-chul, and Captain Kim Chi-ho. These are the guys on the ground.
So the team's in place, Kim Jin-soo, Kang Min-chul, Kim Chi-ho. The sources then detail how they got to Rangoon. How did that work?
It's quite specific. They supposedly left Onjin Port in North Korea on September 9th.
On a North Korean ship?
Yes, a cargo ship called the Dongjin-ho. We'll probably come back to that name. They arrived in Rangoon a week later, September 16th.
But they didn't just melt away immediately?
No, the sources say they actually stayed docked in the harbor for over a week, until September 24th. Then they moved to the residence of a North Korean embassy counselor in Burma.
Kind of hiding in plain sight initially, and the command center for all this wasn't even in Burma.
Reportedly not. According to the sources, it was run out of the North Korean embassy in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Okay, so the key part is planting the bombs. How did they manage that?
This happened on the night of October 7th, around 10 p.m. The bombs are described as remote-controlled claymores. They were placed on the roof of the Aung San Mausoleum.
On the roof itself? How?
It seems like a coordinated effort right there. Major Kim Jin-soo was apparently the lookout.
while the other two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Captain Kang Min-chul climbed onto the roof, and Captain Kim Chi-ho passed the bomb up to him. Pretty audacious.
So the bombs are set. President Chun's delegation arrives the next day, October 8th. Rangoon is the first stop.
Right. First stop of a planned 6-country tour. South Asia, the Pacific. Big trip.
And going to the Aung San Mausoleum wasn't unusual, the sources say.
No. Apparently it was standard practice for state visits to Burma then. Laying a wreath, everything seemed set for the plan to work.
But it didn't go according to plan. What went wrong for the attackers?
Well, this is where things get messy. Major Kim Jin-soo was hiding nearby, apparently near a cinema, ready with a remote control.
Okay.
But President Chun Doo-hwan, his arrival was delayed. Significantly delayed.
Ah, so the timing was off.
Critically off. But while they were waiting, the South Korean foreign minister, Lee Byung-sik, arrived. He was apparently quite tall.
And
Kim Jin-soo, the agent with the trigger, reportedly mistook him for President Chun. A fatal mistake.
oh, wow. And then something else happened simultaneously.
Yes, compounding the error. Just as Minister Lee arrived, the military band, thinking the president was arriving, started playing the fanfare.
So the trigger man sees someone tall arrive, hears the fanfare,
And pushes the button. At exactly 10:25 a.m. local time, October 9th. Boom.
The aftermath sounds just horrific based on these accounts, the building partially collapsing.
Total chaos. Injured people, screaming, bodies.
The sources paint a really grim picture of the scene inside the mausoleum.
And the casualties were heavy.
Extremely heavy. 21 people killed altogether, 17 South Koreans, 4 Burmese, and 47 injured.
In the South Korean list, it includes some really senior figures.
It's staggering. You've got the Deputy Prime Minister Seo Seok-jun, the Foreign Minister Lee Boom-suk, the one mistaken for the president, Minister of Commerce Kim Dong-hwee, Minister of Power Seo Sang-chol, the Presidential Chief of Staff Ham Byong-chun, Top Economic Advisor Kim Jae-ik, another Presidential Secretary Shim Sang-woo, even the president's personal doctor. I mean, a huge blow to the government. Just wiped out in seconds. And Chun himself, he only survived because his car was late.
Just 2 minutes late, the sources say. Pure chance. His security chief, Jang Si-dong, also survived. Apparently offered his resignation, but Chun kept him on.
South Korea must have reacted immediately.
Oh, instantly. Emergency cabinet meeting that same afternoon. State of emergency declared for the military, the police. And they pointed the finger straight at North Korea, called it a conspiracy.
They cut the tour short.
Absolutely. Returned straight to South Korea.
Yeah.
And President Chun issued a very blunt warning to the North.
What did he say?
Threatened a retaliation by force if there were any more provocations. The language was strong.
There was a state funeral, I assume?
Yes, a joint funeral for the South Korean victims on October 13th, and then a huge public rally denouncing what the sources describe as the North Korean puppet's murderous barbarism.
And North Korea's public stance.
Complete denial. Their media reported Chun got a powerful baptism by bomb, which is quite a phrase, but they insisted they weren't involved, called it self-fabricated by the South.
So accusations flying back and forth. Tensions must have spiked.
Definitely. The military border got very tense. But meanwhile, Burma wasn't just sitting back.
They launched their own investigation.
Immediately. Burmese police went after the 3 North Korean agents.
They found them?
Yes, but it led to a shootout. Captain Kim Chi-ho, one of the 3, was killed in the fighting.
What about the other 2?
Major Kim Jin-soo and Captain Kang Min-chul were captured. Both seriously injured, but alive.
And according to the sources, they talked.
They did. Both reportedly confessed, giving details about the plot, who sent them.
So Burma had confessions and their own investigation.
Right. And based on that, on November 4th, they made their official announcement. North Korea carried out the attack. They named the 3 captured, killed men as North Korean army soldiers. Case closed, as far as Burma was concerned.
It's interesting the sources mentioned there was some initial speculation elsewhere, though.
Yeah, in Japan, the U.S. people wondered about other groups. South Korean dissidents, maybe, Burmese ethnic rebels, Communist Party of Burma, even supporters of a ousted Burmese official. But Burma's conclusion, backed by the confessions, really solidified the narrative.
How did political groups react outside Korea? In Japan, for instance.
It varied. The sources say the Japan Socialist Party actually sort of defended North Korea, saying the act was unrelated and wouldn't benefit them. Komeito was more cautious.
And the Japan Communist Party?
They took a clear line, condemned terrorism outright, said it was against communist principles, regardless of who did it.
And Burma's handling of the legal side? The sources suggest that helped convince the world.
It seems so. They held a public trial for the captured agents.
Public.
Yes.
Yeah.
Verified they understood proceedings in Korean and English, allowed foreign press in, even North Korean diplomats could attend. That transparency, the sources argue, built international trust in their findings against North Korea.
Let's talk about the impact. This must have completely shattered Burma's relationship with North Korea.
Oh, absolute demolish it. Before this, Burma had tried to maintain, an equal distance between North and South Korea. They actually had friendly relations with North Korea, saw them as fellow socialist, non-aligned country.
But this attack, it was on their soil, at the mausoleum of Aung San, their national hero.
Exactly. It was seen as a profound insult, a betrayal, desecrating the site of the father of the nation, plus trying to kill a visiting head of state. The anger in Burma was immense.
And their reaction was drastic.
Incredibly strong. On November 4th, the same day they announced North Korea did it, they didn't just break diplomatic ties, they actually withdrew national recognition of North Korea.
That's a huge step, withdrawing recognition.
It really is. It speaks volumes. The mausoleum itself was rebuilt in 1985, but it took 24 years for Myanmar and North Korea to formally restore diplomatic relations.
24 years, wow, until 2007.
That's right, a very long freeze.
And beyond Burma, this damaged North Korea internationally too, right?
Significantly. The sources state it led to widespread disapproval, especially among those non-aligned nations North Korea courted. And ironically, instead of scaring countries away from the Seoul Olympics,
it pushed them towards participating.
It seems that way, particularly for many African nations. The sources suggest the later KOL bombing in '87 had more influence on Eastern European decisions, but Rangoon definitely hurt North Korea's standing.
Yeah, let's circle back to that ship you mentioned, the Dong Jianho. The sources have a pretty wild story about that.
They really do. This cargo ship the attackers used.
Yeah.
It was apparently built in Japan, Kochi specifically.
Built in Japan and given to North Korea.
Yes, donated in 1976 by a man named Mun Dong-jain. He was a prominent figure in Kongrin, the pro-Pyongyang organization for Koreans in Japan, head of the Hyogo Prefecture Commercial and Industrial Association.
And Kim Il-sung himself named the ship.
Reportedly, the Dongjian Patriotic Ho. But here's the really chilling link the sources make.
What's that?
They connect this period, starting right around 1977, directly to the beginning of the Japanese abduction cases. They mention specific incidents like the Ushitsu case, a girl abduction case, all starting just after this ship donation. Wow. So a possible link between this support network and the abductions. That's what the sources suggest. And Mun Dong-jin, the donor, he was rewarded, got the Order of Kim Il-sung, a top honor, in '77. Later became Chongryeon's vice chairman.
There was even a photo.
Yeah, a photo of him with Kim Il-sung in a North Korean magazine. The sources say it sent shockwaves through the Zainichi Korean community in Japan. The perception was, so status can just be bought with money.
And this marked a shift in support.
The sources argue it kicked off a major flow of money, remittances from Zainichi Koreans to North Korea, supporting the regime, sometimes legally, sometimes not.
So what happened when the ship's role in the Rangoon attack came out?
The Japanese magazine reported it. Mun Dong-jin denied it, sued them for libel, but the case apparently ended when he died.
Fascinating connection. What about North Korea's internal reaction to the failure of the bombing? Did they just blame the agents?
Interestingly, no, according to a defector source cited here. Internal reports apparently concluded the failure wasn't the agent's fault.
So, whose fault was it?
Chun Doo-won's. They decided he must have used a cunning scheme, that he deliberately delayed his arrival, used the fanfare timing strategically to make them trigger the bomb early.
So he went from brutal to brutal and cunning in their eyes.
Seems that way, yeah. Their view of him expanded. As for the guy overseeing these operations, Kim Chung-rin.
What happened to him? He oversaw the failed Africa attempt too, right?
Yes. Well, he reportedly got demoted hard, stripped of his party position, sent to work on a farm, the source says, scoop excrement. Pretty clear message.
Ouch. Did he ever recover?
Gradually, yes. The source says he worked his way back into favor and got his post back by 1988.
Another fallout mentioned is between the Japan Communist Party and North Korea's Workers' Party.
Right. The JCP condemned the terrorism after Burma's findings came out.
And Chongryeon didn't like that.
No, their newspaper criticized the JCP, basically accused them of buying into a plot against North Korea. The JCP fired back.
And it escalated from there.
It did. The Workers' Party of Korea formally broke relations with the JCP in 1983, called them barbaric hegemonists. And the sources are clear. As of 2024, that break still stands. They haven't reconciled.
Was there ever an attempt?
Yes, under a later JTP leader, Fuwa Tetsuzo. But that fell apart after 2002 when Kim Jong-il finally admitted to the Japanese abductions. That forced Fuwa to pull back and condemn North Korea again. The abductions were a breaking point.
Okay, let's just quickly cover the fates of the individuals involved in the attack itself.
Sure. Major Kim Jin-soo, one of the two captured, was sentenced to death by Burma, executed in 1985.
And the other one, Kang Min-chul.
Because he confessed, his death sentence was changed to life imprisonment. He reportedly said he wanted to go to South Korea if he ever got out, but he never did. Died of liver cancer in prison in Myanmar in 2008.
And Kim Chi-hoo died in the initial shootout? What about the reported commander, Jang Sung-woo?
He's also reported to have died much later, in August 2009.
And diplomatically, Myanmar and North Korea eventually reconnected.
They did. It took until 2006 to agree, and they formally signed the papers restoring relations on April 26, 2007, exactly 24 years after the break.
Any reason given in the sources for why then?
The suggestion is it might have been a move by both countries to kind of push back against international criticism they were both facing at the time. Mutual support, perhaps.
And the mausoleum itself, the site of the bombing.
It remained closed and heavily guarded for decades. Finally reopened to the public on June 1st, 2013, 30 years later.
And just confirm that JCP-WPK relationship still broken today.
As far as the sources indicate, yes. The JCP maintains the break happened 40 years ago and considers North Korea's system totally separate from socialism or communism.
Okay, so reflecting on all this, it's quite a story these sources pieced together. A detailed plan for an assassination.
That went wrong.
Okay.
Tragically killing many others, but missing the main target because of, well, chance. A late car, mistaken identity.
A perfectly timed fanfare, ironically. It really shows how things can pivot on tiny details.
Absolutely. And the consequences for North Korea were huge. Losing Burma as a friend, that international isolation, the damaged relations with groups like the JCP, it backfired badly.
This deep dive really brought out the specifics, the names, the dates, the alleged motivations, and that whole thread about the Dong Jian-ho ship.
Yeah, that link to the abductions and the funding networks, that's a connection you might not expect from just the headlines about the bombing itself.
It really underlines how digging into source material like this can uncover these hidden layers and far-reaching impacts, doesn't it? It helps you understand the complexity.
Definitely. You see how one violent act aimed at a specific political goal can just unleash this cascade of unintended results, reshaping alliances, exposing these other operations, having effects that last for decades.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other major historical events might have similar hidden stories, surprising connections buried within the records, just waiting for someone to dig them out? That's definitely something to think about.